Hello everybody, my name is Joel Clark, and today we will be discussing the ethics of reverse engineering old software. Before we even get started on what exactly is reverse engineering and how it could be unethical or ethical in any way, we need to understand the concept of intellectual property. Now, intellectual property, super important. Very, very, very tricky in terms of what exactly is considered intellectual property, which could be broken down to a couple of things, which is inventions, manuscripts, designs, even certain ideas. As long as they're unique and are able to be patented or trademarked, it can count as an intellectual property. Examples of intellectual property will be original music, any new fresh ideas, calculus, um, Facebook now, that's considered intellectual property. And anything along those lines that is original, unique, and basically hasn't been done before. You can claim it as your own, and that is considered your own intellectual property protected by law if you get it patented. Intellectual property now falls directly in line with reverse engineering because without intellectual property, reverse engineering wouldn't be available as a concept in sense. Because reverse engineering is the process of extracting the knowledge or design information from anything man-made and reproducing it based on that extracted information. For example, reverse engineering could be anything from the recreating of an old game to the recreating of old software or the re-engineering of a computer chip that was once monopolized by one tech company and no one else could compete with, aka Intel. Reverse engineering has all played a huge role in the development of technology and the development of users within that technological space. This has led to the eventual ethical use of reverse engineering for many, many things within the technological scope and learning scope for future users in general. All right, enough about the concept and definition of reverse engineering intellectual property. Let's get down to the ethics involved in reverse engineering, especially in the concept of old software. Reverse engineering, as we described, is the reproducing of man-made products for future use by decomposing and reusing the extracted information that you get from that decomposition of that man-made product. After grasping the concept of reverse engineering, you can't help but come to mind that this does violate the ethical standard of copyright infringement, whereas this is not the original idea of the owner, and they are using it and possibly profiting from the original ideas of the original creators. And in ethical standards, that's not good because you're not giving proper credit for the intellectual property or honoring property rights, including in copyright and patents that these original creators worked so hard to provide and get. But you can't just blanket the entirety of reverse engineering as copyright infringement. You have to take into consideration that there is a legal process behind reverse engineering, such as that there needs to be an initial negotiation for the license to use the idea. So you do, essentially, it's encouraged that you do ask for permission from the original creators that you can recreate their software because they did discontinue it and they are not supporting it any longer. You can't claim that the idea is a new idea, but an expansion on the previous. So this basically says that I can't just claim that I created TVs yesterday because I picked up a TV, put an antenna on it and said, hey, here's the new Toshiba, spelled with an H at the end, and call it my own. That's completely wrong. You will be sued for that, honestly. There's no point in trying in situations like those where you claim a product that's already been invented, or claim that a product is not protected by patent laws because you made some small subtle change like the font in the program. Those kind of situations aren't protected by the legal process, and you can be prosecuted for that. On the other hand, if you do follow these rules and regulations, you can essentially legally reverse engineering any old software. When the process of reverse engineering is completed legally, the process coincides or falls in line with the ACM Software Engineering Code of Ethics, most specifically with Section 1.5, which labels that you must honor property rights, including copyrights and patents. As in, when the reverse engineering process is not legal, you're completely violating copyrights because you were unauthorized to reverse engineering the product in the first place. As well as Section 1.6, which details how giving proper credit for intellectual property. Whereas if you were not legally following the laws of reverse engineering, you would miss out on giving the original credit to the original owners and not claiming it as your own, which is a moral and an ethical standpoint on all levels that we should always abide by, that you should always give credit where credit is due, especially when the idea is 100% not your own. Some examples of reverse engineering and ethical use would be reverse engineering as a learning tool. Reverse engineering is very good at evaluating the breakdown of man-made products and softwares, whereas in a classroom setting, that's perfect. For example, you have an old program. Let's say you have an old video game program and your teacher wants you to break it down, find the errors within the programming, fix them, and improve on that process. That is the best hands-on learning that I believe any student can achieve while learning how to code, is breaking down a product or a program that's already established, finding out what made that program work and what was wrong with the program as well, which allows the students to learn debugging skills and learn proper coding based on the source code of the original creators. Another example of an ethical use of reverse engineering would be the pursuit of interoperability within different softwares. That is, for example, the ability of different softwares to communicate with each other based on the user reverse engineering a already existing software and allowing for that connection to be made. This has been brought to attention multiple times in the court of law and has been fought and proven that it is not unethical for a team to reverse engineer an already existing software if it's in the pursuit of interoperability, because that means that it's not in pursuit of own financial gain, it's making it readily available for all consumers. And in America, we love capitalism, and capitalism allows us to not be monopolized by one company. Examples of companies that have tried to fight against reverse engineering of their products would be Lexmark. Lexmark has suffered in the past due to reverse engineering, whereas they used to have, I don't know if anyone remembers, when they only had inks that worked within their printer systems. It wasn't until a third-party company reverse engineered their inks, installed them into their ink cartridges, and allowed for a cheaper alternative to a Lexmark branded ink cartridge. The courts ultimately ruled in a Lexmark case that copyright law shouldn't be used to inhibit interoperability between one vendor's products and those of its rivals. In the rulings from the U.S. Copyright Office in October 2003, the Copyright Office said that the DMCA doesn't block software developers from using reverse engineering to access digitally protected copyright material if they do so to achieve interoperability with an independently created computer program. And that basically says that you can reverse engineer products and softwares already in market as long as it's in pursuit of making that product compatible with yours. So, for example, I can't just copy your product and sell my own product that's similar. I have to already have an existing product, and me being able to connect with your already existing product would be an added on feature. These examples of ethical uses of reverse engineering still fall in line with the ACM Code of Ethics, whereas it doesn't infringe on the original owner's copyrights and patents, and it also gives proper credit for the intellectual property to the original owner. Because interoperability is not you rebranding and calling it your own, it's you just connecting with their already existing software. All in all, reverse engineering is an ethical practice when done legally. If you follow the rules of initial negotiations and not claiming that the idea is your own sole creation, then there is no debate on the ethicalness of reverse engineering in the long run.